wrestle a bit, which has helped matters.
Yeah.
But on the feet, like you say, there are so many different things that can happen in there.
Yeah.
What would you say, out of everyone so far, who is the most complete fighter you've seen?
I would be tempted to say Jose Aldo. Obviously Demetrius Johnson's up there. But for me, I need to see someone with the ability to dismantle someone and take him apart.
I would have said John Jones myself, but I think there's one thing that people haven't really recognised yet, and that's how bad his boxing defence is.
Yeah.
I've watched a few of his fights, like, closely, when you really sit down and, like, there's not even any sound on, and he's actually wide open a lot of the time, but he keeps people away by doing a lot of this, and the threat of the takedown makes people not go in all guns blazing.
Yeah.
But I think if Rumble Johnson fights him, he'll knock him out. I think, but I agree with you. Jose Aldo doesn't get a lot of the respect he deserves either, because Conor flashed him. So
yeah, and Frankie Edgar as well is another guy that's a very complete, well-rounded fighter. Very good balance of every single skill set together without being too focused on one particular thing.
Boxing versus MMA, we're talking about it. So obviously Mayweather Conor is happening. It's going to happen by the looks of it. How do you see it going? Worst case scenario. Best case scenario for Conor. Everyone's getting rich, basically.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, we see Conor chase him around for 12 rounds and really hardly touch him. And Mayweather will just fight out of a defensive show, and it will be, Conor's big left hand will just keep bouncing off his guard. That's the worst case scenario for me. Best case scenario, Conor clips him early and rocks.
Is that what you're hoping for? Would you like that?
I would love to see Conor win. I'd love to see any MMA fighter beat any boxer in boxing, but I just, like I was saying a minute ago, boxing's been so refined. They've mastered the art of boxing. Mayweather especially, he's defensively one of the best ever, possibly the best ever. Yeah. And then you've got Conor, who's obviously a fantastic fighter, but he's a fighter and not a boxer. And there are a lot of things that Conor uses to set up his boxing, which he won't be able to use. Like just the way he uses the octagon, the way he sweeps people towards his right, which is very unusual. Because most of the time, when you've got a powerful left hand, you want people moving onto it. But Conor sweeps you away from it. You can't do that in a boxing ring because you've got corners. The other thing as well is his kicking game. As soon as you take that out there's a whole level of threat that you've removed. When you've only got to think about that left-hand landing.
It's funny because you get a lot closer, don't you?
Yeah.
Mayweather likes to come out and say, oh, well, he went, well, of course we're going to do it in boxing. I mean, most of Conor's KOs have come on the feet, so obviously we're doing, but it's like, yeah, mate, really, that's exactly why you don't want to get in a cage.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's also he just couldn't face it.
Of course, because the threat of a takedown changes stand-up fighting entirely. Like,
especially if you're here and he's there.
Even kickboxing and MMA stand-up is very different. We've seen like world champion kickboxers get into an MMA cage, and you expect them to be able to replicate it, but they can't because the threat of the takedown changes so much. And the size of the gloves is another huge thing as well, because Mayweather, one of his biggest things that he does is he has a 10-ounce glove here, and you're not going to connect with him the way you would if he had a 4-ounce MMA glove. Yep. So there's, as much as I'd love Conor to do it, it's looking unlikely when you think of it like that, isn't it?
But then again, respect to Conor for offering to take it on. Respect to any MMA fighter that's willing to step into the boxing ring and compete against a world-class boxer. Because it's not our sport. We're fighters, we're mixed martial artists. And that is the difference, I love boxing, and I love to watch two highly refined, skilled boxers fighting it out. It is very, very tactical. But in a fight, I'm going to kick the guy in the legs, I'm going to take him down, I'm going to strangle him. You know what I mean?
Dana said recently that there's no way Mayweather's knocking Conor out. Would you agree with that?
It depends on Conor's use of energy throughout the fight. I think he could certainly be exposed in the later rounds. You know, I mean, we saw him. We've seen him get tired in the third round consistently. You know, he does slow down, and yeah, you know, he got a second wind against Diaz in the second fight, and he looked better in the fifth round than he's done, you know, before. However, you've got to think 3-minute rounds, they're going to be fighting at a slightly higher pace. There's going to be the frustration because he can't lay a hand on Floyd Mayweather, which means he's going to be overextending. And I think that was partly the problem with his energy expenditure in the first Diaz fight. He was missing.
He fought like shit in that fight, actually. I watched it back, and when I first watched it, Conor's thrown so much that you think he's connecting, but when you rewatch it back, Diaz is doing a great job of just leaning out of it.
Yep.
And if he fights like that...
That's it.
He will get knocked out, actually.
Yeah.
But the mad thing is, aside from the sucker punch KO, Ricky Hatton was the last person that Floyd Mayweather knocked out, and that was like a decade ago.
Yeah.
That's mad, that. Because I remember watching that with the lads and that.
That wasn't even really peak Hatton either, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Nah.
Cost us.
And another thing is that referee really fucking helped Mayweather big time.
What makes you say that?
Like, literally, in my opinion, that referee was paid off. Not that Mayweather wouldn't have beaten him anyway, but it literally made sure that the whole fight played every strength Mayweather had, so that Hatton couldn't get close to him. Yeah. And the whole clinch gate, like getting near him, it wouldn't happen at all. And Mayweather just picked him off completely. So if we have another referee like that, we're fucked, basically. So one thing that you have been quite vocal about, the spiritual side of life.